For a long time, the story of India was written by kings and queens. From the great Mauryan and Gupta emperors to the Mughals who followed, the right to rule the lands was reserved for the person who sat on the throne. And yet, today India stands as the world's largest democracy. How did a land so deeply marked by the rule of monarchs become a republic whose constitution states that every citizen of India wields the same democratic power? Let's find out. But before we dive into this video, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube for more videos like this. For millennia, the Indian subcontinent was governed by different dynasties. The idea of a Chakravartin or a universal monarch was at the center of its cultural traditions and myths. It was realized in the form of the Mauryan emperors who forged the first vast pan-Indian empire in the 4th century BCE, and the Gupta kings whose reign is remembered as a golden age of art and learning. Waves of invaders and settlers brought their own traditions in the land. The arrival of the Mughals wove Persian concepts of absolute sovereignty into the Indian fabric as well. Great monuments like the Taj Mahal cement them as an integral part of India's history and identity. But even as the Mughal Empire waned, hundreds of regional Maharajas, Nawabs, and Nizams remained, ruling territories that ranged in their strength and influence. By the time the British invaders came to India, it was a dense mosaic of monarchical rule. For much of the 18th and early 19th centuries, the British East India Company extended its grip across India by bending the local rulers to serve their interests. India didn't have a united front that could stand against their forces, and as a result, the East India Company started seeping into the cracks and colonizing India. After the revolt of 1857, the British Parliament took away the power to govern India from the East India Company, and the title of Empress of India was assumed by Queen Victoria. More than 500 princely states survived, but their Maharajas and Nawabs were merely ceremonial heads. They had no real authority over their states. The real power lay with a new, oppressive, and colonial monarchy. The British Raj lasted almost a century, but in this time, India saw the people unite and fight for their freedom on different fronts. From the early Indian National Congress that sought to give Indian men a voice within the imperial structure in 1885, to Gandhi's civil disobedience movement in the 1930s, to the armed insurrection embodied by revolutionaries like Bhagat Singh, to the fierce military campaign waged by Subhas Chandra Bose and the Indian National Army, to the cultural and spiritual revolt championed by the likes of Rabindranath Tagore, whose poetry, music, and vision of a universal India nurtured India's soul, and the legal and constitutional trench warfare fought by figures like Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, who weaponized the law to dismantle colonial and caste oppression from within. None of them were monarchs. They were all just regular people of India who were standing up for what they believed in, and as a result, became leaders in their own right. And their different ways of rebelling were all equally vital in India's rebellion against British rule. So when India gained independence in 1947, it didn't just mean the end of British rule. It also meant the final, definitive end of the rule of kings and queens in India. Those 562 princely states suddenly became a colossal constitutional puzzle. Some Maharajas dreamed of independence, imagining their tiny realms as sovereign nations. It fell to India's leaders, most notably Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, to persuade, cajole, and, where necessary, compel them to accede to the new Indian Union. The crowns, the thrones, and the ceremonial gun salutes were discarded in favor of a federated republic. A state in which sovereignty would flow not from bloodlines but from the constitution. And what a constitution it was! Drafted under the chairmanship of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, a legal scholar who had himself been born into the crushing stigma of untouchability, the document borrowed from the American, Irish, and British traditions to forge something uniquely Indian. In 1952, millions who had never known anything but the rule of kings and emperors, many of them illiterate, most of them poor, walked to the polling booth and voted to elect who they thought could best lead them into the future. The ballot had replaced the crown. If you learned something new from this video, don't forget to click the like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to Just Learning for more.